Hey, welcome to my podcast, Cold Narratives. I'm your host, Iceberg Green. About to let y'all hear some of these cold narratives. Check it out. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about the public school system in California. I'm from Oakland, California specifically. So our public school system has always been dysfunctional for the most part. You know, we have the flatlands and you have the hills. Most of the schools up there were a little bit more high quality when it comes to education. We had teachers at the time that actually cared, so they were filling our minds up with things about our history, because that's pretty much was the best thing that we could get from our education is just really a history lesson. Okay, so this is a California insider, and this guy, you know, he wanted to remain anonymous. He didn't want his face to be shown, talking about these public schools and what's going on. He's scared for his life. That's crazy, you know, but this is his take on it. Check it out.
Thank you for having me.
We want to talk to you about a phenomenon in California. 30% of kids can read and do math. Almost about 30% can read and do math at grade level, unfortunately.
And now, schools are parting ways with disciplinary action, leaving students with no repercussions and no accountability.
When it comes to students, we're dealing with a very big issue of defiance, disrespect, disruptions in class. By the end of the year, it's just mayhem. It's why teachers want to give up.
Is the increase of disruptive behavior by the students having an impact on their overall education?
95% is my worry about the misbehavior in class, and the 5% of my effort and time goes to actually worry about teaching them. It's a very helpless feeling, and it's really bizarre. It's really awkward to have a child punk you on a middle school campus without immediate action. It's going to be past the point of no return. I've been teaching for about 20 years, and I've run the gamut from elementary all the way up and through college. I'm currently at a middle school and high school right now. And when it comes to students, we're dealing with a very big issue of defiance, disrespect, disruptions in class, attendance.
Nowadays, there's a divide, between the parents and the teachers. The teachers are more so trying to do the parenting, and the parenting is kind of like confused on which way to go. You know, yeah, what we want to do, we want to raise our kids. You know, school is there for the teachers to teach. They're not there to raise your children. They're not there to pretty much discipline your kid like you should. They're there to teach. They're not there to be counselors, therapists. You know, they're not there for that. You know, they're there to teach. You as a parent, that's your job to know what your kid feeling, what your kid knows, wants to know, wants to be. That is your job as a parent. And I want to say that to all the parents that are doing what they're supposed to continue, because your kids will benefit from that going further. The proper education leads to success in so many different ways. You don't limit yourself by having a proper education. Okay, so this is Candace Sumner. This is off of TED Talk. And this is her experiences in the public schools versus the higher echelon schools and her experiences with both. Check it out.
All these amazing things that I was being exposed to and experiencing, I felt I wasn't really supposed to have. I wasn't supposed to have a library, fully equipped athletic facilities, or safe fields to play in. I wasn't supposed to have theater departments with seasonal plays and concerts, digital, visual, performing arts. I wasn't supposed to have fully resourced biology or chemistry labs, school buses that brought me door to door, freshly prepared school lunches, or even air conditioning. And as I got older, I started noticing things like, how come my neighborhood friends don't have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go to a school that's an hour away? How come I'm learning to play the violin while my neighborhood friends don't even have a music class? Why were my neighborhood friends learning and reading material that I had done 2 to 3 years prior?
Yeah, so you were fortunate to be able to go to a school that had resources. For me, we didn't even have jerseys for our basketball team. You know, it was rough, man. You know, it was the field trips were probably like down the street. You know, we didn't get those. You know, it was just how it was, man, for me and the resource that I had growing up. But you were fortunate to have that.
I was like an educational Moses screaming, let my people go to high quality schools. I'd seen firsthand how the other half was being treated and educated. I'd seen the educational promised land, and I could not for the life of me justify the disparity. A little known secret in American history is that the only American institution created specifically for people of color is the American slave trade. And some would argue the prison system, but that's another topic for another TED Talk.
Okay, so after hearing that, do you think the public school system in California played a major role in the demise, and the effect it had on the youth today and the learning curve that you see in the youth today? Think about that for a moment. But yeah, I'm gonna let her finish her take on it. Check it out.
The public school system of this country was built, bought, and paid for using commerce generated from the slave trade and slave labor. While African Americans were enslaved and prohibited from schooling, their labor established the very institution from which they were excluded. Ever since then, every court case, educational policy, reform has been an attempt to retrofit the design rather than just stopping and acknowledging we've had it all wrong from the beginning. All right, just bear with me. Blacks were kept out, the whole slavery thing. With the help of philanthropic white people, they built their own schools. Separate but equal was okay. But while we all know things were indeed separate, they were in no ways equal. Enter Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas in 1954. Legal separation of the races is now illegal. But very few people pay attention to all of the court cases since then that have undone the educational promised land for every child that Brown versus Board intended. Some argue that today our schools are now more segregated than they ever were before we tried to desegregate them in the first place. Teaching my kids about desegregation, the Little Rock Nine, the Civil Rights Movement is a real awkward moment in my classroom when I have to hear the voice of a child ask, if schools were desegregated in 1954, how come there are no white kids here? These kids aren't dumb. They know exactly what's happening and what's not. They know that when it comes to schooling, Black lives don't matter, and they never have.
I want to read you guys an excerpt from Mary Church Terrell on being colored in the nation's capital. She's speaking to the Union Women's Club on October 10th, 1906. For those that don't know who Mary Church Terrell is, she was born in 1863 in September, and she died in 1954 in July. Okay, so she was the first African American woman to earn a college degree. She was an activist, of course. She taught in the Latin department at M Street School, known as the Paul Laurence Dunbar High School. This was actually the first African American public school in the nation. It was in Washington in 1895. She was the first African American woman in the United States to be appointed to the school board of a major city, serving in the District of Columbia until 1906. Terrell was a charter member of the National Association for Advancement of Colored People in 1909 and the Colored Women League of Washington 1892. She helped found the National Association of Colored Women 1896 and served as its first national president. And she was founding member of the National Association of College Women in 1923. So she has a resume that's, she's just outstanding. So I'm going to read a little bit excerpt from what she said in the book Road to Freedom. As a colored woman, I cannot visit the tomb of the father of this country, which owes its very existence to the love of freedom and the human heart and which stands for equal opportunity to all, without being forced to sit in the Jim Crow section of an electric car which starts from the very heart of the city, midway between the Capitol and the White House. If I refuse thus to be humiliated, I am cast into a jail and forced to pay a fine. Nowhere in the world do oppression and persecution based solely on the color of the skin appear more hateful and hideous than in the capital of the United States, because the chasm between the principle upon which this government was found, in which it still professes to believe, and those which are daily practiced under the protection of the flag yawns so wide and deep. Wow. She was really going through a lot, in just her role, to get some sort of freedom, some type of equality. And it's always been this way, you guys, from black women and black men. We've always been treated like we're immigrants in our own country. Always. I just believe you become limitless when you get the proper education. I really do. Um, and it opens up more doors, more conversations, more networks just by having the education, man. And some game too to go with it. You feel me? Now, I know a lot of y'all might not like what I'm about to say, but we have a lot of parents out here that's lazy. They're not putting in the work. You're allowing the internet, you're allowing the kids around the school to raise your kid. They're taking ideologies and narratives from other people instead of you. I think you should spend more time with your children. And for those that are not, this is who I'm talking to. So, I just want to let y'all know, y'all need to spend more time with going and understand what's going on in these schools, what these teachers are telling your kids, the type of stuff that they're bringing home, stay on their phone. Spend more time understanding what your kids' needs, wants, or besides the internet. Okay, so this is a Black History lesson for you guys. Now you can actually understand what we had to go through um, to even have a school. And Mary Church Terrell is an example how hard she had to fight for women to even go to school and be recognized for their accomplishments. So this woman did amazing things, man. And shout out to her family. And I really respect this and love this. This is our people struggle, man. And we come a long way. I'm telling y'all, a long way. And we still got a long way to go. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I want to say God bless everyone going through the struggle and watch out for them cold narratives that the government be trying to push on us, y'all. And to all my black people, I would be nothing without y'all. Thank you all. Green machine.
Times got hard, had a nigga scarred, dealing with this trauma like I'm sitting on a yard. Growing up managed, can't deal with all this damage. I'm just a little nigga guy, can you help me out? Before I start lusting and chasing this clout, that was the first time I heard little nigga get out. I had to hit them streets, strapped with my cleats like I'm playing running back. Went to the turf, yeah, God help me, cause I can't help myself. I thank you every single day and I'm not holding my breath. God help me, cause I can't help myself. I thank you every single day.